This is Benjamin, Adelaide's first test tube twin. He and his sister Vanessa are only the third set of twins born in the world from the in vitro fertilisation program. Nationwide was there to record the births. It was an occasion of much personal happiness for the parents and satisfaction for the medical team who'd worked for 3 long years to achieve success. Adelaide's test tube twins, a story of happiness and achievement. It's one of Nationwide's first reports for 1983.
Hello again, Judith Barr with the late news. Labour's economic policy will be announced in detail in Sydney next Thursday, but today the party's spokesman on economic matters, Mr Keating, gave some hints.
It will mean a complete change from the current thrust of the present government's policy. It will mean a dramatic change in the monetary and fiscal settings of economic policy, and we'll be trying to promote activity not only at the public sector level in things which will have an early impact upon employment, like the construction and building industries, but also encourage the private sector to finance, invest, finance and build facilities which can have application in the public sector. So we'll be doing all within our power to get an immediate turnaround from the present languishing state to one of activity, to one which promotes growth and starts to restore some equilibrium to the economy.
The Prime Minister today attacked the ALP's plan to fight the election on a programme of reconciliation, claiming Labour's attitude to the wages pause showed how divisive its policies were.
8 governments, 3 Labour, National Party, Liberal and ourselves. And there is amongst all the governments a very broad consensus agreement that the wage pause was needed. And who's the odd man out? Mr Hawke, the Labour Party, Bill Hayden, the rest of them. And if they really wanted reconciliation, if they really want to bring Australia together, why doesn't the Federal Labour Party support the wage pause fully? Why hasn't it done so over the last several weeks? Because even if they'd thought the pause was only half good, if a person was sincere, if a party was sincere rather, about reconciliation or bringing this country together, they then would have said, all right, all the governments are in favour of it, including 3 Labour governments, therefore we must agree in the interests of national agreement. But they don't take that course. They oppose it, seek to subvert it, and the Deputy Leader even says that industrial action is justified and to be expected to try to break and thwart the wage pause.
Representatives of 9 oil industry unions will meet in Adelaide tomorrow morning to consider an ACTU recommendation that they lift all bans and limitations. The ACTU's Tactics Committee on Friday voted to suspend industrial action in support of its anti-wage freeze policy until after the federal election. The Secretary of the South Australian Trades and Labour Council, Mr John Lessies, says oil industry delegates believe the best way to achieve their pay claim is to defeat the Fraser government. A number of service stations in Adelaide have run out of petrol because of disruptions to deliveries last week. Environmentalists in London have been confronting British companies which want to invest in Tasmania. They've been protesting outside Australia House in the Strand, where a senior Tasmanian minister is interviewing potential investors. This report from Peter Monkton.
The star attraction of the 2-day demonstration is comedian and writer Spike Milligan, who put his thoughts into song.
They're flooding the Franklin Valley. They're drowning all the trees. The birds and the butterflies who've been there for centuries. Oh, damn, 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 damn. Damn that Franklin River, damn. Yeah, 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 yeah.
The renewed protests follow an expensive advertising campaign by the Tasmanian government to attract investors, partially lured by cheap hydroelectric power. The State Industrial Development Minister, Mr Neil Robson, says 24 major companies are considering joint ventures in areas ranging from construction and agricultural machinery to bookbinding. But were the ever-present demonstrators worrying potential investors?
They haven't so far, but I believe that's what they're demonstrating for or hoping to. I've read some of their placards, and it's a pity they couldn't get some of their facts right.
Despite Mr. Robson's impressive list of potential investors, most of those who initially responded to the advertising campaign were not investors, but environmentalists concerned about the dam. Peter Monkton, ABC News, London.
The Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping said he hoped the 4-day visit to China by the US Secretary of State Mr. Schultz would mark an era in relations between the two countries. The White House announced that President Reagan and the Chinese Premier would hold a summit meeting in the United States later this year.
The trip seems to have gone better than expected. One indication, today's People's Daily, China's largest newspaper, featured 2 pictures of the secretary. But there was also a front-page article highlighting remarks made by Premier Zhao Zhiyang at a news conference yesterday when he said that Taiwan was still the biggest obstacle in Sino-U.S. relations. China has over 1 billion people. It's a poor country. The leadership, in an abrupt change from the philosophy of Mao Zedong, is emphasizing a better life for the average Chinese. Peking had hoped that American trade, technology, and investment would accelerate this process. Thus far, it's not been what Peking expected. China currently has a sizable trade deficit with the U.S. One industry they hoped would change that is textiles. But the Americans are holding Chinese textile imports to previous levels. And as a signal of their displeasure, the Chinese have stopped buying some American products. It would have been impossible to solve all of these problems during the trip, but enough progress was made here by Mr. Schultz to set the stage for a summit meeting between Premier Zhao Zhiyang and President Reagan. Chinese sources here say that that meeting will probably take place in Washington in September.
And back to Australia. And for most, it's back to school tomorrow. And the Education Minister, Mr. Arnold, has joined police and the RAA in urging motorists to be alert for children. More than 200,000 students begin the new school year at state schools tomorrow, with 7,000 of them attending classes for the first time. The officer in charge of the Police Traffic Region, Chief Superintendent Colin Benson, says police will watch motorists and pedestrians near schools. The chairman of South Australia's Tertiary Education Authority has rejected a claim that the state is dangerously close to a widespread teacher shortage. Mr. Kevin Gilding was replying to the president of the Federation of Australian University Staff Associations, who said that reduced output of trained teachers had left education authorities short of teachers to employ. Mr. Gilding said there are continuing discussions between the Education Department, private schools, the Institute of Teachers, the teacher education colleges and the universities about the numbers undertaking teacher education. The 4th National Thoroughbred Sales opened in Adelaide today, with yearlings sired by Without Fear bringing the highest prices. The top price was $200,000 for a chestnut filly out of Gay Display. A bay filly, sired by Without Fear out of Mohawk Princess, brought the next highest price of $170,000. Rick Teague has more details.
The yearling sale got off to an impressive start, with this beautiful chestnut filly going under the hammer for $200,000. The filly, by top sire Without Fear, was billed as one of the most outstanding lots of the 4th National Sale, which has been organised by ABCOS, the Adelaide-based Australian Breeders' Cooperative Society. The filly, out of Gay Display, was sold on account of Lindsay Park Stud at Angaston and was bought on behalf of the British Bloodstock Agency. The sale began at midday today, and more than 600 lots will go under the auctioneer's hammer during the next week, offering buyers access to some of the most prestigious bloodlines in the South Pacific, with yearlings drawn from throughout Australia and New Zealand. The sale has attracted many interstate owners and trainers, as well as investors from overseas, among them international thoroughbred owner Mr. Robert Sangster. He'll be sponsoring a day of racing at the Morphettville track on Tuesday, followed by a sale that evening of his entire draft of yearlings bred in Australia. ABCOS are expecting a turnover at this year's sale of around $6 million. This is Rick Teague in Adelaide.
Now let's have a look at the cricket. And Australia has qualified for the finals of the one-day international series. Australia defeated New Zealand by 27 runs in Perth today to edge out England from the second finals spot. In today's match, Australia finished 9 down for 191 for 50 overs. and then bowled New Zealand out for 164. Australia's wicket-keeper Rod Marsh, who top-scored with 31 and then took 4 catches, was named man of the match. Wright top-scored for New Zealand with 33. And finally, the weather. Very hot generally, with isolated thundery showers in the north and west, moderate northeast to northwest winds and sea breezes, and the seas should be slight. Broken Hill can expect afternoon thunderstorms and an estimated maximum of 42 degrees. The estimated maximum temperatures for country centres range from 35 up to 44. Well, it looks as though we're all going to cook tomorrow, because the metropolitan area forecast continuing very hot with northeast to northwest winds. Adelaide can expect a so-called low tonight of 26 degrees and up again tomorrow to 42. And I hope you can cope. I'll be back tomorrow evening with more television news at 7. I hope you'll join me then. Good night.